So I
I
might
was
have.
gonna say, what is there like a rule on Twitch against vaping?
Oh, oh, you know what?
I don't think that there is. I've seen streamers do that before, so I
Yeah,
don't think that there's a problem with that.
I hope not. I can't see you on my screen. I had to learn this program last night.
One moment.
Oh no no
Might be
I,
on my end.
no no no, it's on my end. I forgot to resize your thing and your actually I could only see your face. So I couldn't see myself. First time using this stupid little program, everybody. So I'm gonna clip it. I'm gonna clip this whole intro mess out on the VOD. Don't worry. So, are you ready?
Uh, okay. Why the hell am I all blurred?
What you're blurred? What the hell? I don't know. Oh, yeah, you are blurred. We can't start off that way. Oh boy. Oh boy.
Make pee pee.
I'm so nervous. I might have to.
Make pee pee. Make pee pee. Make pee pee.
Okay, so my audio is fine. Okay.
No,
Make
your audio is fine. I can hear you perfectly. Can you hear me perfectly?
Yeah, perfectly. It's like
No, no, no. No, no, no. No, no, no.
okay. Wait, you can't hear that soundboard, can you?
No, I can't hear the soundboard.
Well, good thing because we're having a serious conversation. Damn it. Okay.
We are having a serious conversation, and also to be fair, I'm in a Discord with a whole bunch of people that will always spam the fucking soundboard, so
Oh,
it's a fucking nightmare sometimes.
what a fucking nightmare.
Well, you just randomly hear someone pressing like the knock knock on there, or it's like
No.
some Honkai meme or something else like that that's going off, and it's like I
So
don't
fucking
need to
annoying.
be. I enjoy those games. I don't need to be told that someone's a doctor from the underworld.
Oh god. Oh god, that's a bit that's no, that's not amazing. It's awful. Okay.
It's not awful. It's funny sometimes. It's just when it's completely random. It's like when I want quiet, I hear that shit go off.
Okay. I don't know if I should clip that out. That's kind of awesome. Let me just
I mean, you can clip it. You're I'm on here to be serious, but we can laugh.
oh.
Because I mean, some of the stuff I'm going to tell you about, I don't know what questions you're going to ask, but some of it actually does make people feel very angry.
God, I mean I was expecting some questions. Nobody submitted them, so I'm just gonna have to this
Well,
as a
I mean,
first interview, just general.
it's it's really my first time doing anything like this. So
Okay.
if anything, I'm trying to get you the experience of because clearly you want to do Twitch streaming and clearly you want to do this stuff. So
Yes.
you know what, someone with a little bit of knowledge in the field of environmental science and environmental activism should do this because I mean,
That's right.
fundraiser for Greenpeace, activist for a few LGBTQ causes, IWW organizer. I can talk all kinds of mess about all kinds of topics. But again, you did advertise this is about environmental issues, so I can definitely get you educated on a lot of those, especially the ones that affect us here in the city of Houston and in the state of Texas in of themselves, because a
Yes.
lot of it does relate to how shitty our state government is, how shitty the city government can be at times, and just that um, how even at the federal level, a um, lot of players really don't give a fuck about it because ultimately one of the big things that I used to mention a lot about was the Willow Project and was the factor of that while they are building, there is more investment into green energy being made at the time. At the same time, there are more oil wells being drilled in the state of Texas, in the states of New Mexico, and in the entire West more than ever.
Damn.
And that being a big issue. But whenever you're ready to start, I can answer these questions, and your audience can definitely do this.
Yeah, my audience, which is a few people, don't get me wrong, I do have some viewers.
You're good. You're good. I'm actually getting
Let's
to the
see.
Twitch here, so I can get this in here. I'm logged in.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So it's all gonna post in this stream chat thing, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Let's see.
Okay, all
Okay.
good.
All right. Hello. Today we are live on my first ever interview, which is why I'm sweating profusely. No, I'm not. Okay. And today we have this person right here is just laughing. Laughing. This is a very
Yeah,
serious matter. James Burzynski.
it's it's a serious matter. Yes, I am. I am. My name is James. I am an activist in the Houston area. I have done activism with organizations such as Greenpeace, the International Workers of the World, and through various other advocacy organizations in the city of Houston, more or less as they relate to LGBTQ rights, environmentalism, and refugee crises within the state and within the city of Houston as at large. But predominantly, I am here to speak with my good friend Ronald, who used to be a coworker of mine,
Yeah.
about environmental issues and that which face us here in, I mean, in the natural world, but in the city of Houston, more or less, especially as they relate to our ability, um, our individual actions, and ultimately how, sadly, we can do our part. We can do what we want, but we can try to be better about that. But ultimately, it is overshadowed by corporate greed. It is overshadowed by government negligence, and it is overshadowed by ultimately the factor of that just greenwashing, ESG scores, and what have you.
Yeah, you see, that's what I thought.
More or
Corporate
less,
greed.
it's not. Yes, more or less, a lot of stuff is not going to change unless a lot of people start giving a fuck about it.
Yeah, that's right. That's what we're trying to get people to do. Whenever this goes viral in the future, give a fuck about the environment. That is, I guess that's gonna be my thing. But
Oh
this is the
yeah,
beginning of it.
yeah. Shalom Alek.
Excuse me. Yeah, you've said that before. What does that mean?
Yes.
Translator for?
Shalom Alek. It's the Hebrew version of Salam Aleikum, or peace be with you.
Oh,
It's
there you
a
go.
it's a Hebrew greeting. I'm not I'm not religious. I'm not really all that Jewish, but I do have some Jewish descent
Oh,
in me, and I do occasionally use that because it's more interesting than just saying "Bye con Dios" or something else like that. That's the
yeah.
closest thing to being an Eastern European goodbye. I mean, I could do the Irish thing and do "Check your Allah," but that's an IRA thing, and not a lot of people like IRA
Oh, wow.
slogans.
Damn. They get irate. Okay.
They get very irate.
Okay. So I guess my first question was and we were talking about this yesterday. How is it that it seems like everybody is under the impression that recycling is, I guess, a mainstream way to take care of the environment, at least, in your
So
daily life.
ultimately, I'm not going to tell someone not to recycle. I'm not going to tell someone not to do it because I mean it is a measure. I will say this: it is not a full measure. It is not a half measure. I'd say honestly, at best, it is a quarter measure. Because the sad thing is that we can compost, we can recycle,
Yeah.
we can gather rainwater. We can do whatever it is. We can conserve as much water. We can conserve as much of it is personally as we possibly can. The sad thing is that if you live in Houston, only about 5% of that is actually recycled.
Damn.
Or actually, I should say worldwide, it's more or less only about 5% of that actually gets recycled. It's actually less. I only
Shit.
say this because my numbers might be out of date, but the 2021 numbers were 5% out of 100% of plastics that were recycled, only about 5% of them actually were able to make their way back into being reused. The sad thing of it is that recycling was never pushed by environmentalists to start with.
Oh,
The whole thing of it is if you get into the history of plastics were essentially they were a miracle material created in the 1940s post World War II.
oh yeah.
Because basically what it was is it was something that could replace everything. But what ultimately happened off of this is that these corporations that were making the plastics basically knew more than aluminum, more than anything else, is that they cooked up this thing to get ahead of legislation to basically say, we can recycle plastic, we can recycle glass, we can recycle aluminum. Now, in my opinion, glass and aluminum are a little bit more recyclable. The only sad thing is that if you get an aluminum can, like I literally have Coke cans in here, which people have said I'm a hypocrite because one of the biggest offenders in the world is Coca-Cola.
Ooh, boy.
But I mean, honestly, people say it all the time. There's no ethical consumption under capitalism. Ultimately, it's the soda that's there. It's the cheapest soda that's there, and I'm not a millionaire here. You can see my 2-bedroom apartment behind me.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the thing is that was created to get ahead of legislation to basically say, hey, we can get this. This is recyclable. We don't need the government to step in. We don't need anyone to really do anything about this. We can take care of ourselves. Ultimately, due to this is why we have a continent of plastic in the Pacific Ocean. It's ultimately why our oceans are essentially dying off of this.
Yeah.
And this contributes also into another issue, which I generally tend to talk about a lot, because despite being an environmentalist, despite being someone that does care about a lot of this stuff, I do occasionally like to go fishing. It's a really fun way to clear your mind. It's a really fun way to just go out and have an excuse to do nothing for a day.
Yes.
And this effectively gets into another point relating to our oceans, which, yes, I did say Greenpeace earlier.
Right.
People can come at me over some other stuff that Greenpeace has done, but I'm not going to defend some of the what about stuff.
It's not your fault.
Because those same people are not going to are not going to be going after oil companies. They're not going to be going after the people that are making stuff worse and saying, "Oh well, this is bad too."
It's not your fault.
But ultimately, that's why I'm saying, recycling. If you can, it is good. The only issue is that the infrastructure is just not there for it.
God.
And ultimately, we can recycle as much as we want. We're doing our part, but these corporations do not do their part. That's the end result of it. And the only real way to combat this is to hold these companies to account.
Yeah.
Which is exactly, like one of the big things that at least Greenpeace did is they literally spent a few days, a week out on that Pacific Briar Patch, basically went through there, cataloged all of basically took a whole lot of pictures of it, basically noticed that there was a whole bunch of green bottles, and basically went to Coca-Cola and said, hey, you know what, this is fucked up. Are you going to do something about this? And that's the reason why now, it's greenwashing, definitely. It's the reason why, you working in a grocery store, you see this all the time. You see those Coca-Cola bottles that have 100% recycled plastic on them.
Yep.
Basically, they do that to get ahead of the concept of legislation, the concept of people getting pissed off
Damn.
that all of a sudden they can't enjoy their local beaches, they can't enjoy the places that they're able to swim, they can't do any of this stuff. But the companies that are making this, they're pushing it off onto us, and it's one of the reasons why, as much as we love recycling, as much as we all love to do our thing, that's one of the big issues. And sadly, it's one of the reasons why, we need to start being more we need to start holding those corporations accountable. We need to start doing that. And ESG scores can help in this way, in a big way. The only issue is that lobbying still exists, and that these, as it would stand, these companies continue to be able to buy off politicians. They continue to be able to say all this nonsense, basically contributing it off. But ultimately, I'm going to say that's the end to that question. If you want to go on to your next one, because I'm rambling at this point.
No, actually, you're cluing me in because I was listening. I was listening to that, and you answered kind of like the second question I was going to ask you about just voting politicians out who don't care about the climate or even say that climate change is a hoax. Right wingers, essentially.
I was going to say right wingers, and to an extent, there's also the issue of, especially here in Houston, while we can do there's a whole lot of stuff that you can do. Because, I mean, honestly, there are elements of the city of Houston government that are, in fact, sympathetic to being environmentally friendly. The only issue is that in the state of Texas, individual cities can't really do a lot to counter what the state says. Like, in the case of it being, we currently have, Texas State House and the Texas State Senate. First of all, while they're embroiled in the issues of probably getting, in my opinion, one of the worst state attorney generals out of office, which I don't have any hope for in any sense, but that's a digression in of itself. There's basically executive orders on the table that Governor Abbott has signed that basically said, individual cities in the state of Texas cannot divest from natural gas, cannot divest from oil companies, and cannot make. We essentially have a ban on plastic bag bans. If it has to say that. It's stupid, yes. It's pointless, yes. Because honestly, having been working in the grocery industry, having been working in multiple industries where are being in essentially the effort of doing this and seeing this, and knowing that in fact, while Kroger especially talks a huge game about being able to recycle their plastic bags, because you take all those bags, you put them in another bag, you take it up there. I do it myself. Literally, I'm in a position where I can walk to a grocery store at this point.
Yeah.
And, that's good because it's bringing down it's reducing my ability to do this. And yes, all the fucking apps are going off on my phone trying to tell me that, oh, hey, you can go get free McDonald's right now.
Oh, that's what
I'm like, fuck that. But
okay.
Anyway, as that stands, yeah, my webcam's going out of focus right now. As that stands, the end result of it is that this is essentially greenwashing, and ultimately, the best thing you can do politically is to essentially start raising hell. Honestly, is what I'd say.
Yeah.
Because that's the best way of doing it. Like, you can vote as much as you want, but the thing is that at the end of the day, voting is the bare minimum you can do to affect any kind of change whatsoever. Because ultimately, I forget who the philosopher that said it, but power concedes nothing without a mandate. And if someone just has power, they're going to do with what they're going to do with power what they will. It's an ultimate function of the state is that unless there's some kind of collective action behind that fear, or there's some kind of collective action telling those in power, or in the case of a dual power structure where everyone has the same amount of power and everyone is able to enforce that power. Without that, there's not really much elements for change, because ultimately, in the case of that, especially under the systems that we live in, money fills the vacuum that power creates, and ultimately, it's one of the reasons why just ballparking here with examples like the Citizens United decisions. Ultimately, essentially, the creation of slap suits is another issue, because slap suits was actually something that when I was fundraising for Greenpeace, that was another thing that we talked a whole hell of a lot about, because that is essentially something that energy companies will do to environmental activists, and they'll basically be like, "Oh, you did a demonstration against this pipeline in North Dakota or in Montana or something else like that, and you damaged our equipment, or you're giving us negative press, so we're going to sue you for X amount of millions of dollars unless you retract this." And the sad thing is that, well, essentially we have to go around knocking door to door, basically asking people to give Rick money every month. Because I'm not going to go out and do that, because I don't want to wind up this going viral and someone being like, you did this when you weren't when you weren't hired by, or you weren't working for us officially. And it's like, I'm not doing that, but I mean, at the same time, I'm not telling you anything that we wouldn't tell you ourselves. But ultimately, we're having to raise money and stuff like that, and we're raising money for not tax deductible things. So already people who don't have the interest are being, obviously the people who are already don't care about this kind of stuff aren't going to care, but everyone wants a livable, breathable Earth, because we all can't go to Mars,
Right.
like, at the end of the day. But slap suits is a big issue. That's especially something that we're currently trying to fight in the Texas State House, and we're currently trying to fight pretty much everywhere, because slap suits are expanding. And as a matter of fact, there's actually a really big I don't know if it was like last year, it was a few years back, but I know John Oliver actually did a big part on slap suits and essentially their effect on just everything, because that's a big, it doesn't necessarily just affect environmental issues. It affects the issues of racism. It affects the issues of police brutality. It affects the issues of everything, because it is an attack on someone's First Amendment rights, because it's basically saying, it makes it stop being about someone's First Amendment rights as they pertain to them, and it starts making it about its First Amendment rights for someone who can afford them.
Yeah.
But anyway, yet again another digression.
No. You're fine.
Let's hear anything else you got.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest with you. I had to Google slap suit because I thought it was slang for I'm gonna slap a suit on that guy if he keeps on,
Oh yeah,
sort of a cease and desist.
It's strategic lawsuit against public participation.
Right. We're all learning and discussing here. Discussing.
Yes.
Okay, so I would call myself kind of a hypocrite, I guess, because I was watching some videos. I was trying to do some research last night, and like two of the videos mentioned that if you eat less meat, you know, go vegan or
Um.
vegetarian, that would help. Personally,
I'm going to say that's not all. That's not entirely wrong. That's not entirely a bad idea
Right.
because eating less meat can help you out. It can help to essentially clean the earth. The
Right.
only issue with that being is I mean, I guess one of the big issues with it being is that first of all, the long-term infrastructure for for our farming practices, for everything else like that goes, it's just not there. Like eventually we're not going to be able to continue to eat um the big steaks, the big burgers and what have you.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to say this. I'm saying all this, but there's beef in my fridge right now. There's chicken in my fridge. I like my meat, and while I
Right.
am trying to cut back on it, I am also, in a position where I'm kind of a picky eater. My wife's kind of a picky eater. And, as it stands, that's a bit of an issue. If I decide to cut it all out, she can't cut it all out at the same time. And I don't even know if she'd really want to cut it all out.
Right.
But the issue being is that eating less meat can help, but ultimately it's one of those things of it gets into the whole concept of how um recycling was never invented by environmentalists. Carbon footprint was never invented by environmentalists. This was all plastics companies. This was all oil companies, and this was also in the state of the meat industry. Um, that's also stuff basically saying, well, environmentalists want you to eat less meat
What the
because it may,
hell?
they make it an issue of it being macho. It's one of the issues of, like,
Right.
why bacon is so popular in the States
Yeah.
when everywhere else it's not. I mean, I like bacon occasionally, but I mean, pork belly is not really the best. In my opinion, it's not one of the best things to cook up. It's not one of the best things to really eat because I mean, I like a nice fat steak, but
It's
I know a whole
processed.
hell of a lot of people that do not like that fattiness on it.
Yes,
But
please. People, I'm sorry to cut you off, but please try to cut down everybody on processed meats like hot dogs and bacon. It's a carcinogen.
uh,
It's a known carcinogen.
it's a carcinogen, yes, but at the same time, like, to be perfectly honest, unless you're literally eating like it at every meal,
Yeah.
you'll be fine.
Right.
But don't obviously don't eat. I'm not telling you to cut down, but I'm also not telling you to like go crazy on that because that'll cause multiple health issues. Because um, another one of my coworkers from
Yeah.
when I was fundraising for Greenpeace, who
Uh-huh.
actually is a vegan,
Oh.
we'd actually go into him and I would actually have like long conversations about this. I wouldn't say debates because I disagree with absolutely nothing he had to say.
No.
But like it's one of those anthropological things of uh it really gets into that culturally humans were never meant to eat large quantities of meat
Oh.
because you can look at anatomical models of humans and then compare them to other omnivorous creatures, other mammals. And if you see that, then you compare it to from omnivorous um, animals like primates or like bears or what have you, and then you can compare it to like cats or something else that is a carnivore, and you'll just notice that their digestive systems are shorter. They don't really contain intestines, and just the concept of that, you know, you have to eat. You cannot just eat meat. You cannot just not just cut everything out of it.
Right. You hear that, Jordan Peterson? Okay. No meat.
Well,
Eat a
Jordan
fruit.
Peterson's also. Oh, I mean, digression, but Jordan Peterson also fried his damn brain
Yes.
by doing that, and that's one of the reasons why why he had to do all that stuff in Russia because that's the only place where those doctors would actually just listen to that, and not be like you're an idiot. You need to be institutionalized. You're clearly not firing on all cylinders.
Gosh.
Anyway,
Oh, meat. Yes. So, I was gonna ask you, how do you feel about solar energy, which obviously I don't have no
how do I feel
experience.
about solar energy?
Yeah.
Um, honestly, I feel like it's something that there needs to be more collective investment in, because ultimately, in my opinion, I feel like solar, wind, and hydroelectric, or not hydroelectric, but geothermal, or what's the other one? To an extent, nuclear energy are the future.
Oh, okay.
Which this is, I mean, arguably what I'd honestly say as far as nuclear energy goes is that um the only issue I really have with nuclear energy, and it's kind of the issue that people would always mention, being Greenpeace and stuff like that. Well, isn't Greenpeace really anti-nuclear? And it's like, the thing is yes, they were very anti-nuclear to start with, but that's predominantly because of what Greenpeace was started off of, and it was basically anti-nuclear testing. It was anti, basically the proliferation of nuclear arms out into populated areas where there were seal sanctuaries, where there were whale sanctuaries, where there were turtle sanctuaries, dolphin sanctuaries. There were also indigenous people living in those regions. Um, Case in point, why the very first boat that Greenpeace ever owned, the Rainbow Warrior, actually was sank by the French government.
Damn.
Like, literally, the only saving grace that basically made it so that basically it's a tragedy in itself. Only one guy died, and that's because because it was one of the photographers. He went back into the boat
Jesus.
as the boat was sinking. But like, the saving grace of this, that not everyone who was on that, I think including Dave McTaggart was on there. Dave McTaggart is the founder of Greenpeace. He died in the 70s, or it's either the 70s or 80s in a car crash.
Oh no.
Like, there are people that'll claim that like Patrick Moore is a leader of it. Patrick Moore is actually
The Monsanto's
he
guy?
was on he was on one of the first he was on the first boat, but he left in like the 80s. And to put it into perspective, the guy who headed Sea Shepherd has actually gone on record saying that this man doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
Is that the guy that didn't taste
Yes, that is the
insecticide?
guy that did not taste insecticide after saying that he would drink it.
No, I'm not an idiot. Go ahead and taste it. There's a bottle right
Yeah,
here. That's the
yeah,
guy. Okay, I
yeah,
knew.
yeah. No, that's yeah. But anyway,
That's him.
oh, the conversations I used to get into about that.
Yeah, we got our
Hello, I'm
first.
nothing.
Yeah, our first chat. Being like, what?
What?
That's right.
Well, I'll counter that what with why.
I'd be like, and what not? I don't know. We're talking. We're not just talking about anything and
Why?
everything. Actually, there is a topic. Gosh darn it, for you guys, and it is my the beginning of my journey as a guy. Oh, Ron, he's an environmental guy. Yeah.
Yeah, as an environmentalist, we can.
Ooh, I forgot to change the name of this fucking stream. Sorry, it's not a test. That's what I named it last night when I was practicing. No,
It's not pre-recorded.
no, no. We here. We in the building. Fuck. I'm not signing into my thing on
I was
Streamlabs.
gonna say, I mean, sadly, this could be pre-recorded, and we're just saying stuff at the exact point in which you're asking it.
See,
Almost like we expected you to be here.
see, what does it take to be a conspiracy theorist? Like to doubt every single fucking thing, like the
I
moon
mean,
landing.
I mean,
What is
the
wrong with those
moon
people?
landing. The thing is the I mean, that's a topic for another day. But I mean, there is a Adam Explains Everything video explaining why like it would actually have been easier at the time to actually land on the moon than to fake it.
Yeah, 1969 for you Gen Z for change activists that are watching. Because we're talking about the environment. Hello, Elise
I
Joshi.
mean, wait, who?
Elise Joshi. She's the woman who stood up at Jean Pierre, the speaker of the
Oh, Jean Pierre.
Jean Pierre. Dang
Oh,
it.
yeah. Then never
She
mind.
stood up.
Jean Pierre. The thing. Yeah, when they basically were standing up at the Biden
Yeah. Let me
with
see.
the Biden thing and basically said, what is actually your plan on climate change?
Yeah, and they were like so
And
polite. Excuse me?
yeah, they were actually very polite about it. But yes, it's the issue of yes.
What the hell? Hold on, I'm sorry. This chat. Maybe this is. I don't want to bother you too with talk. I need to find a stream so it won't be boring washing dishes. Oh boy, one of those.
Understandable.
You start. That's how you start. That's how you start. You get
It's
people.
exactly how we start getting viewers.
What is this? I have nothing better to do. Well, I'll just watch this. You know. Oh,
Exactly.
they're not talking about J
It's
Lo's
how
ass. Come on. I want some spicy Ariana Grande scandal. Not today. I mean, I do like pop culture, but right now it's
yeah, I have zero time for tabloid
yeah.
nonsense.
I have 25%
I
time for that.
was gonna say good. Remember, I'm an environmentalist. I'm more pissed off at the fact that I walk outside and it's literally the past. I mean, I sound like I'm jumping all over there, but basically the fact that we just had the hottest July in or in recorded history, basically.
Yeah. I'm sitting. I'm not doing anything right now, and I'm hot, and I'm fanning myself with this.
I got my good AC going,
Yeah. I have it in the garage. I still have to
so
put it up. Let's see.
yeah. I mean that's one bonus. That's one bonus to apartment living is that you always have AC, and if it goes out, you get to yell at you. I mean, I don't like yelling at anyone, but
Yeah.
you get to tell the management company, hey, yeah, my AC is out, and it's 900 degrees outside. Well,
That's right. That's
I don't
right.
know. Let me see. Can I actually see the temperature outside? Yes, excessive heat warning. It is night or wet bulb temperature of 119 outside.
Yeah. And climate deniers be like, but guys, that means you get to get a tan.
It's summer. It's summer.
Yeah, it's summer.
I was like that was the one of the most brain dead responses ever, and I was like, I mean, it gets into I mean, I can actually tell some stories about that, because there was actually an instance of like one day when I was doing the fundraising and everything else like that. I got into a really long conversation with this guy, and like he was like I was basically saying, well, the thing is that we have efforts, to do all this stuff. The thing is I mean, obviously, it's not going to happen overnight, but it's going to be something that needs to happen because if we don't do it, it's gonna be the issue of we just don't exist here anymore.
Yeah.
And like I thought it was a constructive conversation, and then he hands me off this book that's like talking about how like um, climate change is all a hoax, and that we actually need more fossil fuels in the world. And I was like, okay, so this guy was literally wasting my time.
So he was a denier.
I wouldn't say he was a denier. He was like one of these new kinds of like want to say like semi-libertarians that are like,
Oh,
oh
jeez.
yeah, well, more investment in fossil fuels is what's going to save us, and it's just like, no, it's not what's going to save us. Like, do you really like? Obviously, if you're the type that wants a Star Trek future or wants like a future where we sail the stars, do you really think that we're still going to be using oil? Like, do you really still think that we're going to be having essentially the fossilized remains of dead dinosaurs powering our vehicles?
Right.
We're not going to be having that. We're probably going to have, I mean, obviously, it's science fiction, but like obviously we'll never have nuclear fusion, at least within our lifetime. I feel like Dyson spheres are more um realistic when it comes to that, but again, this is technology that's literally hundreds of years, or I want to say not necessarily hundreds of years, but if you and I were to see it in our lifetimes, it would be when we are in our, at the very earliest, maybe our 80s or our 60s.
Damn.
And the 60s is a very, I mean, both of those are very optimistic outlooks on there.
the 60s.
But like, yeah, like
Oh
we'll
boy.
be in our 60s by the time that's even reasonable, because I mean, essentially how a Dyson sphere works is, I mean, you basically are harnessing full-on stars to power planets.
Damn. The
But
2050s.
more like the 2150s.
Oh, never mind.
Um, but anyway, we are making a slight digression here from this.
Yeah. I was gonna ask
Um,
you. Oh, I'm sorry. You were gonna say?
oh, go on, go on.
I was gonna say. So are the icebergs melting? Like the North Pole? Like, are there not
Um,
gonna be any more polar bears in the future?
well, the thing is that the North Pole is, I mean, the North Pole is right in this. I mean, magnetic north and true north are both right in the center of glaciers and in the center of like there's
So
no actual
hot.
landmass there.
So hot. I'm
Um,
sorry.
the Arctic pole is not, I mean, Arctic, the Northern Territories, the Yukon Territory in Canada. I mean, they are experiencing warmer summers in Siberia and in basically all of Eastern Europe, what have you. But ultimately, like at this point in the year, the Arctic ice is not what's being measured. What's being measured is the Antarctic ice, and as it stands, um, Antarctic sea ice is actually at its lowest level, and there's really good chance that that's not coming back. So, to put it bluntly, as I've had it explained to me, this is basically, I mean, you're not immediately looking at this, but like within the next 10 years, there's a good chance that we might see some Gulf streams collapse.
Damn.
And that's not good because that can lead to numerous environmental consequences. I mean, the movie The Day After Tomorrow, I mean, it might not be an ice age, but I mean, it could be worse than that. It could be to the point of, I mean, we've already seen the fact that Phoenix has literally broken its own record, and the fact of that it's what 120, 130. I mean, they might reach 130 degrees.
Holy crap.
The fact of that, and the fact that basically it's causing a public health issue all over the whole thing, and it's the factor of that. I mean, it's basically the driest spot, and um, you know, we talk about immigration being an issue, and we talk about all this other stuff, but as these areas get hotter, they're going to start being uninhabitable. Um, and I mean, this is just on in the Western Hemisphere. We're not even talking about. I mean, technically, Italy and the Mediterranean is still in the Western Hemisphere, but I mean, well, no, it's actually the Eastern Hemisphere, but we like to refer to it as the West. But you know, I mean, I'm looking at it with American eyes, so to speak. So I'm not necessarily looking at it with the efforts of knowing what's going on in Europe or knowing what's going on in Africa.
Right.
But for the most part, like what I'm seeing is these temperature rises. What's going on here? We think obviously the immigration issue. It's saber rattling. It's not as bad as people make it out to be, but ultimately, right now people are only trying to come because of shitty imperialism, shitty other stuff that the U.S. has done in the past, and it's basically that this is the only place to really go for them to go is to do all this stuff. Think of what it's going to be in 2 years and in 5 years when entire swaths of Mexico, entire swaths of South America can no longer be inhabited because it's complete desert, and it's not like the issues of it being desert like out in the Middle East or what have you. This is barren desert where there's no water, where in the shade, in direct sunlight, it's like 160 degrees, dry heat, no humidity. That doesn't feel nearly as bad as it does in Houston, but still it's 160 degrees.
Yeah. Oh god damn
The
it.
human body starts shutting down at 150. You are essentially cooking at that point.
Yeah. It's
This is
frying.
not considering wet bulb temperatures. This is just dry bulb temperatures.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, this is hot enough to basically the water turns to steam, and 160 your blood starts evaporating. You start suffering all kinds of um,
Oh man.
biological issues, and it's just like the thing of that. And honestly, that's one of those things is that within the next 10 years, with how this is going, I
Yeah.
guarantee you that both of us can speak. We're both leftists here. We're both people who are a little bit more, more empathetic, more caring about the future,
Yeah.
more caring about, people that don't just, I don't care about people that just have my complexion. You don't care about just other Hispanics, other people like that. We obviously we see ourselves as human more than we see anything else.
Yeah.
But within the next 5-10 years, we're gonna long for the days when the people that are white supremacists, that are concerned about all this, that are considered about like white genocide tropes and stuff like that, when they finally start to embrace climate change, when they start to embrace the fact that it's happening, because it'll only be when actually people have to start fleeing the areas that people can't leave, because then they're going to start, you think trans genocide rhetoric is bad now.
Mm-hmm.
Think of how it's going to be when they ramp up the white genocide rhetoric, because now these people who can't live in Mexico, people who can't live in Brazil, can't live in um,
They're gonna
other
escape.
regions of that,
They're gonna
people
flee.
who can't live in Central Africa anymore because the Sahara has literally expanded
Yeah.
into um, the savannas and everything else like that. It's gonna be a complete bloodbath. It's gonna be completely disturbing. And ultimately, this is one of those issues of something needs to be done sooner rather than later. It's one of the reasons why there needs to be some more serious divestment in this. I'd argue that another investment that should be made is an investment in walkable cities, an investment in uh, just rebuilding infrastructure to the point where people can walk and they don't have to drive everywhere. They don't have to um, do all this other stuff, because that is ultimately what is doing this. And then on top of that, while it's a bit of a broken record, it's a bit of something else like that. A bigger interest in EVs, because ultimately, well, I drive a car, I drive all this other stuff, because the thing is that there's only a handful of EV providers right now, and a few of them have serious quality control issues. Teslas have are known for it. Um and then the ones that do work are ridiculously expensive. But the thing is that, again, the technology is getting more there, and then the fact of that, while especially here in Texas, people like to shit on California all the time. The factor is that while California did say, by I think it was 2035 or 2038 that you're not going to be able to really sell a gas powered vehicle in the state of California. People don't look at it like this, but California is the world's fifth largest economy. Like, it is
Oh
largely its
shit.
own country, and by it saying something like that, it basically does well. I'm not the biggest fan of capitalism. It does force that innovation a little bit, because it's basically saying, now it's time to, you've got this much time. start doing it, and it'll be by the time of that EVs start to become cheaper. We start to be able to get this stuff because at the end of the day, it gets back to the old days of automobile innovation where the first car ever made was like converting it into today's money would have been like, I don't know, probably cost you like $1 million, whereas we're probably not that expensive, but like $100,000 for first car ever would have been. This is not the exact amount, so if anyone in the comments or anything else like that wants to come at me, this is essentially the adjusted. And yes, I will admit I am ballparking numbers, so take that as you will. But it's ultimately the factor is that EVs are going to get cheaper. But the end result of that is that EVs will be only a half measure unless there's an investment made in walkable cities. There's an investment made in the ability to do this. And this ultimately does get back to one of my earlier points is that there's a lot of misinformation relating to this because oil companies, chemical companies don't like this because this basically puts them out of business. This basically makes it to the point where, it's cutting into their bottom lines. And I mean, another issue, especially as it relates to this, in the state of Texas, I guess I should ask, first of all, anyone, if the person who's in here commenting or this,
Katie.
does Katie pay rent in the state of Texas, or do they pay for a mortgage in the state of Texas?
I mean, Katie lives in the house, so I assume. Well,
Okay. Something I will state. Chapter 313 of the Texas state law, basically as our Texas state tax code, as far as it goes with property taxes, what your property taxes essentially do is they subsidize the oil and gas industry in the state of Texas. Roughly a story that I'm always telling people, I would always be telling people would be that it's because of activism on behalf of environmental organizations like Greenpeace and others that essentially we got a change made to that, because there's going to be a oil rig to be built out in Midland, Odessa. It was Midlands or Odessa or someplace out in Texas that would have been completely taxpayer funded, would have been completely built off of this. And I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, we can have the argument, whether oil and gas is needed, or if we need it, if it's something that we're going to still have in the next 20, 30 years. But I think at the end of the day, we all can agree that multi-billion dollar corporations that are essentially, that are doing what they're doing, they're multi-billions, not like struggling corporations, not struggling companies, but they're essentially taking in tax dollars. And this is just at the state level. Federally, oil and gas companies get about $20 billion in subsidies every year, basically to produce single-use plastics.
That's right.
This is to the tune of billions of dollars. This is one of the reasons why it's another issue of collective effort needs to be made more than, just take out your recycling on Tuesdays, do all this other stuff. It all needs to be done this explicit way. It's like, we can do as much recycling as possible, but at the end of the day, if it blows up or it burns, you can do all you want, but you're not going to be burning. It's still burning the fuck down. It's still, you're basically bringing a water bottle full of ice water to a burning fire by doing it.
It's a good analogy. Damn. Okay. I see you're looking at your watch. I'm
making sure that I was checking notifications.
Oh, okay. My bad. Because I could talk to you for hours.
I was like, yeah, we can talk to you. I mean, I'm still good for a bit, but I mean, we are going into an hour into this interview.
Yes, an hour. Don't count the 13 minutes from
Oh, I'm
before.
not counting that. As like we started at 11:28 or 11:30.
Right. I do have probably three questions. I hope that's not too much.
Okay, it's absolutely not too much.
The first one, you got me thinking about the poor, unhoused individuals who have to bear this heat. I guess my
Yeah.
question is very general. How can we help them? I mean, come on,
How can you help them?
the homeless, unhoused.
Um, I mean, directly directly the best way I'd honestly say would just be um if you see someone, if you see an unhoused person, who can't face this heat, offer to get them. I mean, I wouldn't say, like, if you feel like you're threatened, don't do this, but if you can offer to get them someplace cooler, if you can give them some like ice water or something else like that, if you can do um there are a list of things you can do to basically stave off heat. And like just one of them is cold water. A change of a the ability to get clothes that'll will more store the moisture. And other than that, it's just electrolyte water and everything else like that, because that's honestly the best way of fighting the heat. And this gets more into survivalism, which I have some information, but it's more stuff I actually have to go out and find.
No.
And I mean, honestly, what I'd just say is I mean, I can suggest some podcasts and I can suggest some like articles on that, but I can't really be like, oh yeah, let's go to let's here's exactly my advice, because a lot of my wilderness survival stuff is at least 10 years outdated. Um, but that's the best thing I can honestly offer to the homeless people. I mean, there's also just the issues of, I mean, mutual aid's a thing that exists, but
Yeah.
I don't know if really any of us are in a position to be like, hey, yeah, here, all we really can do is elevate their voices and elevate their ability to basically get, to a position where they don't have to be that. I mean, investment in public housing is another thing, but that's
Right.
more long term and less immediate.
Media. Yeah. That's
And I mean, if you're looking for immediate, I mean, I'm obviously assuming off of this question that you're looking for an immediate answer.
right. Yeah, because I work in the parking lot. Every now and then you would see somebody
Yeah,
asking for money, and I do give every now and then, but I'm not giving them water. Like they help because of this
yeah,
weather.
yeah. Water, something to do that. Maybe even a Gatorade or something else like that. Something that's actually got some electrolytes in it. I mean, uh, people always talk every time that shit's about to hit the fan. There's always so many people that'll be like, "Oh, buy gold," and it's like, if shit really does hit the fan, gold's not going to be worth shit. What's going to be worth money is going to be water purification tablets, electrolyte tablets, uh,
Yeah. Concert
whole
tickets.
list of other stuff.
A new coat, a new fur coat. No, no. Um,
No.
I was gonna. Do you have any book recommendations about this topic?
Uh, I actually don't have any book recommendations about
No.
this topic. I mean, honestly, what I'd honestly suggest is that as far as resources and stuff like that goes, for a lot of the information that I get, a lot of the information that I work off of comes off of I do my own research, which I mean I know it's a meme, like I do your own research, but like I do the whole like open source verification of a lot of stuff. But like what I'd honestly say is like some of the best sources for this stuff is greenpeace.org, sierraclub.org. I mean, Nature Conservancy kind of, but Nature Conservancy is more interested in, like just buying up the land and then making sure that no one screws with it. Um, I mean, just because those are also the people. I mean, for the most part, Greenpeace and Sierra Club are the two people that have the boots on the ground the most of the time to do this kind of stuff, to basically stand and do the research, because they do in fact hire scientists. They do in fact do a lot of this stuff as it relates to it. And they're the ones that are doing a lot of the hard research. They're doing a lot of the hard work as it relates to this. And they're ultimately going to be the, not going to say they're going to be the ones that are going to lead us through this, because obviously only we can lead ourselves.
Yeah.
But it is the solution.
That's right. And okay, so we should do this again, but
Of course.
I haven't asked my last question yet.
Okay.
So how important is it to get involved in local politics? Because I never hear about that.
How important is it to get involved in local politics?
Yeah.
I want to say I want to say, as best as it works, get involved in your own way.
Hmm.
If it's getting involved by, attending city council meetings, going to your local school board, getting
Boring.
involved in some way, like that. Those are some really good ways of getting involved in local politics, because it gets you to, I mean, especially here in Texas, it can get you to go into
Oh.
places, correct the record, and make the communities realize that, hey, not everyone in this is raising concerns about fake issues, and they're actually raising concerns about real standard issues. Um, Another one is going to your city council meetings. You get to find out what's going on. You get to make a public comment. Another thing is just get involved with activism groups in your area. It's not very hard. It's not hard to find them. Um, you do, uh, you know, especially in Houston, like, you can follow groups like Fair for Houston, which is a organization, like I talked about, is basically going around trying to get Houston's lack of zoning, Houston's issue of housing taken care of. There's again, like I said, there's the IWW, which I'm a member of. I'm actually a proud member of. You can always get involved with them, but that you actually have to contact them through the national website.
Yeah.
There is, I mean, this gets more into a bit of another thing, but like in the case of protecting your local communities from threats, there's always there's John Brown gun clubs that show up a lot, and especially here in Houston, there's a Space City one, or it's either the Space City or it's the Screwstown one, but I know, forget what their name was, but it exists. Um, there's also always good people to talk to. You just have to go out and find them. There's plenty of I mean, there's plenty of ways to do it, because a lot of the stuff that I found out, a lot of the ways that I got involved with stuff in Houston and in Texas in general was literally just looking, because I mean, a lot of them do exist. Um, Amnesty International is another really good one, because I mean, that's doing refugee, um, taking care of refugees, fighting human trafficking,
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of other stuff. Um, but like, that's the best way as I can honestly suggest, because like, I don't have any actual um, connections to any of this. I mean, the last thing that I really did that was immediately connected to anything was Pride, and that was literally just talking and spending some time with some people out there, because it was really fun, it was really cool, and I was like, why didn't I do this before? I've literally lived in Houston for 32 years.
I haven't been. You're talking about the Pride Parade, right?
Yes.
I haven't been to one yet. And my concerns, and I know we're getting to another topic, but it's like kind of safety, because a lot of nuts might target
A
those
lot of nuts
events.
do show up, but again, remember, the ultimate thing is that, especially in a city like Houston, especially in a city like in a lot of places, I mean, here in Houston, you would not have anything to be afraid of because it's much like how in Denton or in well, actually, I'd just say Denton and Houston are basically the same kind of things. You have more of an issue with out in Denton where there's more. It's kind of more North Texas. It is more southern. There are a lot more
Uh,
organizations out there because some of the biggest mega churches are based in Fort Worth.
oh my.
Oh yeah, another issue getting into getting involved in local politics. I completely spaced on this, but I just like got a Discord notification popping up in the corner of my screen. But Food Not Bombs is actually a really good way of getting involved in Houston because
Oh, I've heard
they've
of them.
actually made national news because they've gotten I think now it's like 16 tickets for feeding the homeless.
Yes, I've heard of them. Damn.
Um, I've literally known about them since 2011, and they just keep popping in and out of my collective consciousness. Well,
Damn.
and but ultimately, as it works out, I lost track of what I was saying. But uh, as far as like pride parades go, like the best thing of doing it. But in Houston, you have Montrose, you have Montrose, and literally Montrose is the neighborhood of Houston. If you have never been there, I highly recommend going out there and like just spending the day in that area.
Yeah, I mean,
There are, I mean, it's a little bit more. It's one of the more expensive regions of Houston, but like there are some really nice people out there, and you know some of the clubs out there are some of the night or some of the most gay
accepting.
friendly clubs out there.
Right. They gotta accept.
Uh-huh.
Uh, yeah. Uh, I was thinking if
Of
I had
course,
any other questions.
something I was.
Mm-hmm. No, go
Oh,
ahead.
go on, because I was like, if again, it's your our, it's I mean you here.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was gonna wrap it up because it has been like an hour and 15 minutes, and that little
Okay,
app doesn't let. I'm gonna download this. It's gonna be on YouTube. It's gonna be like forever. Like a record. It's not gonna
okay.
disappear.
Uh, I'll put some. I guess with us wrapping it up, do you want me to like post my where I can be reached at and all other stuff?
Thank you for the reminder. Yes, I was thinking. Tell James to plug their stuff. Tell James. Yes. Is there anything you want to plug? And we're gonna put links in the description.
Okay, so I am on TikTok, I am on Blue Sky, and I am on Twitter. All at Miss um. I'll type it out here because my handle is a little bit harder to get.
Yeah. Yeah. Please. You had to spell it out for me.
At that, it is literally my first two or Mr. J. I mean, I'm thinking of changing that to MXJ.
Oh, okay. That's the gender neutral thing. MX.
Just no, it's because of the whole rediscovering myself kind of thing in that sense of that it's instead of being Mr. J being MX Mixter J. Well, I mean technically MR could still work. It's Mixter J.
MX. See, I didn't even know
Mixter
about MX,
J.
or I guess I forgot about the MX
I actually learned
thing.
that when I was actually canvassing in Montrose was Mixter. Someone was like, "Oh, just call me Mixter." And I was like, "Okay, that's a cool thing."
Yeah, mixer. You come into the mixer.
Um,
Yeah,
Mixter, yeah, Mixter James.
yeah. There you go. You gonna post more TikToks? I like
I
the one
am.
you
I'm looking
posted.
to. I'm actually trying to work on that because I was like, I literally did that because I was like, you know what, I'm gonna post this because I got some personal friends that are following me, and you know what, putting some positive energy and putting some of that stuff in there is gonna brighten some people's day.
Yes, put out some positive energy, not CO2, not carbon monoxide, for crying out loud. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, you know what? The interview was good when I'm sad that it's over. So we should talk about, let's see, in the future we should talk about economic issues, LGBTQ plus issues, uh, all these other ones that we didn't talk about today because I guess I wanted to try focusing on one thing, doing a deep dive.
Hmm.
It worked out well for you because you taught us a whole lot of things, but I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I was just listening.
Well, again, I mean, I'm not tossing out all the numbers and stuff like that, but again, I'm telling it to you in a down to earth way.
Yeah, yeah, which is
And
awesome.
another like little factor that I usually do get into is that when I talk about this, so I guess another issue is that I should also preface this. Well, I do talk a lot about essentially what goes on in the state of Texas and what goes on in the United States. This is a global issue. This is not just something where I'm calling out the United States government. I'm calling out India. I'm calling out China. I'm calling out Russia. I'm calling out Ukraine. One thing that I mentioned a whole hell of a lot about um
William.
when I'd be out on pounding the pavement and stuff like that would be that
Yeah, it reconnected just now,
like,
but yeah,
okay, I was like, don't tell me it's this thing.
this app does it. But yes, to sum up, I'm taking this very seriously. Like I would love to be a content creator and
Yeah,
get some viewers and
I'd I'd love to do this myself because I'm like, yeah, now I have a webcam and stuff like that. I explicitly did it so that next time that I have to do a Zoom call, 8 hour Zoom call or something else like that, I can literally just sit at my computer. I don't have to be like telling my wife, "Oh, hey, sweetheart, I need you to leave the phone behind today." I mean, or sorry, not leave the phone. I need you to leave the laptop behind today.
damn.
It's
Yeah.
also the fact that I do really like to be able to sit down at my PC and do this kind of stuff because it's more comfortable. I don't just leave a laptop sitting in the living room.
You on your phone?
No, I'm not on my phone. I'm on my tower.
I was like, because this is what you may call it, like horizontal. Like if you're on your phone, it would have been like vertical.
Yeah, I was also gonna say you can also see my kitchen in the backgrounds.
Oh, don't dox yourself.
I'm not doxing myself. You
Oh.
mostly can just see this. There's no one else home, so no one can just like open up the door. Like my bedroom's literally right behind there. There could be someone just walking in here. Oh, what's going on? Can they hear me? No. Mic is literally right by my mouth.
The mic.
This steel series sensitivity is not that high.
It's not that high. I'm not that high either. No, I'm not high. Unless you
I
count
mean, I'm not
caffeine as a
high.
drink.
I mean, you don't get you really don't get a caffeine high. You just get really anal retentive. It's like when I was explaining, like my wife was like, "Well, I'm on Adderall. Is that technically an amphetamine?" I was like, "Yes, it is an amphetamine. It's just that it's not nearly as potent as like street meth but I mean, they basically have the same effect. You get really, really focused.
You get hyper. That's why people abuse it.
I
At
was gonna
all.
say every time that I've seen someone high on meth, they've always been like really super focused,
Yeah.
on something. Like I had this was not me, but I actually had a story of where basically these two guys, this friend of mine had these two other friends that found some meth in their apartment complex, and instead of throwing it away like smart people, they decided they were both gonna do it. One of them
No.
spent like 23 or 32 hours playing. It was either Final Fantasy 11 or WoW or something else like that. Spent that long basically screaming at people, talking about how he was fighting this, trying to be world first, clearing something, and found out
No.
like 3 days later that it was just a fountain in the center of some hub or something else like that, scaring people to get pots and heels, and then the other guy basically spent that same 3 days counting the popcorn on the walls in the closet.
That's insane.
So it's just like I had to explain that to my wife. I was like, yes, sweetheart, meth heads are not what you think they are. There's a reason why the actual statistics on meth heads is actually more often than not it's people that are housewives, actually, suburban housewives that that come from single income households. They want to make sure that their entire house is in order, so
Damn.
they smoke some meth and they don't have to sleep.
Damn. And back in the day, Valium was the housewife drug.
Oh, but Valium doesn't have the same effect as meth. Valium calms you down.
It was, what was it? Mommy's Little Helper or something like
Yeah,
that? The
mommy's
nickname.
little helper. But
Mommy.
anyway, yes,
I'm sorry for saying mommy, but yeah.
I was gonna say I don't want to keep you any longer, Ron. So
I suck at hanging up. This is what it's like
you're
to
you're
try to hang up.
you're good. I'm the same way. I want to keep talking, but at the same time, I'm like, I got some. It was nice talking to you, but I was like, I got some more stuff I got to do around the apartment.
I gotta make pee pee.
I was like, you probably want some time to yourself before you go to work tonight.
Yes, I have to go to the restroom.
Yeah,
Too much water. All right. Thank you for coming, James. We will talk to you next time.
of course.
Follow
Just
follow
remember,
them.
everyone.
Follow James. Huh?
Follow me at Mr. J Burzynski 90. I am on Blue Sky. I am on Twitter. I am also on
Tic Tac.
TikTok. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Deuces.
Bye bye. See ya.